Hi, my name is Stacy, and let me show you all about our clear cling stamps. If your stamp comes in the mail and it needs to be trimmed, here's how you do it. It's really simple, but it takes a steady hand. You don't want to undercut your stamp because that can make your image just a little flimsy. So if you can just watch what I'm doing with my hands here. I'm going to trim off the excess polymer around the image, and I don't have to get right up beside it. I can leave about 1/8 of an inch of material around the image, and that's just fine. When I'm going around corners, I want to turn the stamp rather than turning the scissors. That gives me a little bit more control. I'm going to go all the way around. This is a train image. I don't know if the camera is picking up the detail. This is a very detailed stamp, so when we get to actually stamping it, you'll see all the detail come out. So I'm going to trim all the way around. A lot of the single stamps we sell will come trimmed already for you because we're good at trimming. We do thousands and thousands of stamps. So there's the stamp trimmed. Now when you get your stamp in the mail, it's going to come with a protective backing on it. Make sure you peel this backing off. It's just clear, it comes off very easily, and that exposes the sticky surface of your stamp. Now take that sticky surface and attach it to your see-through acrylic block. Like so. And if you don't have it in the right place, just peel it off and reposition it. The cling works over and over again. I like to use Ranger Industries archival ink. I don't sell the stuff, but I just love it. It's a good all-purpose ink. It doesn't fill in the small detail grooves of your stamp. It's waterproof on any surface when dry, and it's reasonably good for embossing. It's just a good all-around ink. It comes in lots of different colors. We're going to try black first. One of the nice things about our clear stamps is when you're looking through the stamp to the ink pad, you can see what areas are getting ink on them and what areas aren't. So I don't know if you can see that. I don't have that well inked yet, so I'm just going to continue to tap the stamp on the ink pad until I've got good ink coverage. And I always want to tap my stamp on the ink pad, or if I had a small ink pad, I could tap the pad onto the stamp. Never mash it down. That way you're going to lose detail by filling in your details with ink. It looks like I've got good coverage. Yeah, I like that. Okay, and I don't know if it does any good at all, but I always huff on the stamp like I'm cleaning a pair of glasses before I actually put it down. Now you can see that I'm looking right through the block, right through the stamp, to position it exactly where I want it on the paper. And I can see if there's any areas that need pressed down a little bit harder. I'm pressing firmly, but not enough to distort the image. Polymer is softer than red rubber, so you're going to want to play with your pressure. This ink is great. It's a little sticky. I can flip it over and rub the back side of my paper just to make sure I have good coverage. Does everybody see what I'm doing there? I'm just rubbing. If you had a larger stamp or a more detailed stamp, you could use the back of a spoon. Okay, well, let's see how that turned out. Peel that off. That didn't give me a very good image. Different kinds of paper that you use are going to react differently with the ink that you're using. A paper that is very absorbent, very porous, is going to make your image spread out or bleed. And shiny papers will often give you very dramatic, sharp outlines with your stamps. But on a shiny paper, you have to use the right kind of ink so it doesn't smear. Archival ink, once it's dry, is waterproof and smear-proof. So I'm going to press this down on this envelope. There we go. That's a much better impression. Now, there's a lot of different inks and ink cleaners on the market. So I suggest that when you use a type of ink, use the cleaner that's recommended by the manufacturer. And then when you're finished using the cleaner, you're going to want to wash your stamp with soap and water to remove any residue. I wash it on the block. It makes it much easier to handle. The stamp will slip around and it's hard to wash if you don't have a surface. Just use regular hand soap and a little brush. An old toothbrush works well. And I'm just going to scrub the stamp. Archival ink will stain your stamps. And a lot of the other inks on the market will stain as well. That's just a fact of life. We can't avoid that. But you can see that I did get rid of a lot of the color, and I can still see the detail of the stamp. There we go, nice clean stamp. And I'm going to talk to you about storing your stamps. One of the many great things about clear stamps is that they store so easily. When you have a large collection of stamps like I do, having them on blocks is really cumbersome. The blocks are like furniture. You have to find room in your studio or in your workspace to store them and to place them. So when we eliminate the block, we can have a lot more stamps. Your stamps store easily on anything that's shiny. You can store them on a shiny binder page. These I've got at Sunday International. And this is called a Stamp and Store lightweight storage panels. And these just go in any binder. And what you're going to do is your stamp, once it's clean and dry, you're going to want to stick it on your page, and you can put that in your binder. I find these a little cumbersome. They're hard to travel around with. It's also hard to set it on my workspace when I'm doing stamping. So my favorite way to store my stamps is to use these. They're called calendar cases. And they come in different sizes, and this one happens to be the size of a CD case. The difference is a CD case will only open flat, so you would have to lay it flat on your work surface, taking up a lot of space. These ones open up to a 45-degree angle, and you can set this on your work surface and take your stamp off, use it, put it back on your flip stand, and then choose another stamp and keep on working. These keep these off of your work surface. It keeps them clean. And when you're done, you can take this to the sink, wash all of your stamps at once, leave them to dry. It works better on my countertop. There we go. Leave them to dry, actually like that. And when they're clean and dry, close them up and store them in any CD rack. Hi, I just want to show you what happens when you leave your polymer stamps in the water too long. Polymer stamps are water absorbent, and very much like your skin, they'll absorb water and get poofy. So this is a stamp that has been left in water for about an hour. And you can see that it is no longer flat, and it's puffed up. If I were to use this stamp right now, the image would be distorted. Let's show you the back of that. All is not lost. This stamp will dry out. I'm going to leave it out and let air circulate around it, and it'll dry out and come back to normal. Problem with polymer stamps is if you have a mounted stamp on a block and it does that, it may come unstuck from the block. So if this happens to your mounted stamps, you're going to want to allow them to dry and then press them down to re-stick them to your block. If for any reason you have a problem and your stamp will not re-stick to your block, contact us and we'll talk about getting you a replacement stamp.